The attractions in there. You've got Shrek's Adventure, London Dungeons, and Sea Life. The aquarium is within County Hall. Now just over here to your left, you can see the Golden Eagle. That is the Royal Air Force Memorial to all the fallen soldiers who fought for us during the First and the Second World War. Now behind the Golden Eagle, you have the Ministry of Defence buildings. That is the Army, the Navy and the Royal Air Force behind the Eagle. You can also see on your left there is a boat in the river there. At the front of that boat it has the words Tattershall Castle. Now that used to be a ferry on the River Humber near Yorkshire. Now that come to London as an art gallery, and it was an art gallery for 5 years. Now it made no money whatsoever. So they turned it into a pub. Within the first week it made more money than it ever did as an art gallery. So this tells you, ladies and gentlemen, what artists we have in London. It gives you a rough idea. Now this is Charing Cross, we're going underneath. We got the gold and it stops them throwing things at the boats, which they sometimes like to do. Keep their hands busy, we go through. Now just over here to the right, this is the last remaining building from the Festival of Great Britain back in 1951. That building on the right has the finest acoustics in all the world. It has drawn in a lot of big acts. People like Whitney Houston, who has sadly passed away, Michael Jackson, who has sadly passed away, Pavarotti, who has sadly passed away, and Frank Sinatra, who has sadly passed away. So we are just waiting now for Justin Bieber to play at the Royal Festival. And judging by most of your reactions, well, it can't come soon enough. Now this bridge ahead of the boats, this is Waterloo Bridge. Now as we go through the bridge, you look to your left hand side, there's a building on the left with a green dome on the top, and it is called Somerset House. This building was originally built for the dukes and the elders. It's where the royal family, they used to live before moving to Buckingham Palace. Now today that house is an art gallery, and in the grounds of that building, they use the grounds of it for various things throughout the year. Most of the time, a lot of people go to that house during the Christmas period because they turn the grounds of the building into the largest ice ring in the UK. Well worth a visit during the Christmas period. Now just over here to the right, I know we've got a lot of couples on the boats, a lot of families as well. You might be looking to do something at Tower Bridge. Now as you go on that pathway, you'll come across some lovely old traditional pubs, some nice markets as well, and you get a lot of street performance. That's all on the right, the South Shore. Now also on the right hand side, you can see in a moment's time, there's a red building coming into view with the letters at the top. The letters, they read out OXO. This is called Stamford Wharf, but years ago it was owned by the OXO company. They make the stock cube you're all familiar with. Now today that stock cube is made in the north of the country near Lancashire. Now this building on the right, we got a shopping centre at the bottom. We got luxury, unaffordable apartments in the middle. And if you look at the top of that building, you've got a glass front. That is home to one of London's top 5 restaurants. It's called the Harvey Nichols Great views from the top. Now over there to the left are large construction sites, which you can see. This is a civil engineering project. It's called the Tideway Project. They are building a new sewage system in London. The old one was built by Joseph Bazalgette, and he built it for 2 million people. We've now got around 10 million people in London. So that's why they're doing all the works to the sewage system. Now there are 13 of these sites. They go up and down the river. They are digging down into the riverbed. They are laying a new pipe. That pipe is going to run all the way from Essex to Putney. Putney is further up the river behind us. This shiny building just up here to the right is number 1 Blackfriars. It was finished a couple of years ago now, and within number 1 Blackfriars you have apartments, very expensive apartments. They start at £7 million. They go up to £40 million. That's all within 1 Blackfriars. Now just have a look in the middle here as we go through these bridges. You can see these red columns standing on their own. The foundations for the Alexandra railway line. This was designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. That's what the steam trains they used to go over. They have now removed the top. They have left those columns in the middle as a memory to the Alexandra railway line. And folks, if you look up to the left now, you've got your cameras with you today. I know some people have got tickets to go here today. St Paul's Cathedral. It's a great place to visit whilst you're in London. Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece. Now folks, you probably paid for your tickets around £35. That's what you have to pay Monday to Saturday. But if you go there on a Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, it is free of charge to watch the service. And it is a fantastic experience. Now of course, because it is free, what they ask you to do, as they do in all the churches around the world, they ask you to make a donation. So once that service has finished, you're going to see a gentleman walking around the church with a silver champagne ice bucket. Now if you've enjoyed the service, you throw some money into the bucket. Now it's very quiet inside that church, so they let you know they prefer the silent collection, which is your 5, 10, 20, £50 notes. A very old tradition at St Paul's. Now just over there to the right, you can see the white timber building coming into view. It has the thatch roof on the top. That is William Shakespeare's Royal Globe Theatre. And this is where they reenact all of Shakespeare's plays. The plays run from April the 23rd to the end of October. And they act them out in the old traditional way. No stage lighting, no sound effects, just their voices and the theatre itself. This is one of London's cheaper attractions. £5 a ticket to watch a live performance at the Globe. Very cheap for live entertainment. This bridge ahead of us here, this is the halfway point on our journey today. Is everyone enjoying the live commentary so far? Now folks, as I said at the start, I am trying to speak a little bit slower. I don't usually talk like this. There's nothing wrong with me whatsoever. It's all for your benefit. So I really hope you can understand. And we're going to continue just over there to the right. A lovely old pub coming into view. Has the red windows at the front. The Anchor Tavern at Bankside. This pub was made famous by William Shakespeare. Shakespeare himself, he used to use the top of that pub to get changed and rehearse before going to the Globe Theatre to perform. It's also mentioned in Samuel Pepys's diary, Anchor Tavern at Bankside. Cannon Street Bridge, we're just going underneath now, and as we go through, you keep your attention to the right, and in a moment's time, you're going to see what used to be working warehouses. These buildings here on the right, they stored the cargo from around the world. Today they are not used as warehouses, they are now apartments. They cost millions of pounds, these apartments. Now just behind those buildings, you can get to the borough markets. You've got a bit of time whilst you're in London, make sure you visit the borough market. They sell food and flowers from all around the world. And if you go to that market this evening, it turns into a little town. That's well worth a visit, the borough markets. Now you can see on the right here, we have a cathedral coming into view, Southwark Cathedral. That's where the son of a local butcher was baptised. His name was John Harvard. Now as John Harvard grew an older man, he then became the co-founder of the Harvard University in Massachusetts. You can see the name of the bridge as we're going through here. It's on the stonework, London Bridge. This is the fifth one to stand in over 2,000 years. London Bridge, we just gone through. And if you look up to the right now, the tallest building in Western Europe, the Shard of Glass. It's over 1,000 feet tall. It was designed by an Italian architect, Renzo Piano. Now they offered Renzo £1 million for that design, but he said no. Instead, he wanted a top floor penthouse. Now he later sold that penthouse for £28 million. A very clever businessman, Renzo Piano. Now folks, if you go into the Shard, there is a viewing platform on the 72nd floor. From that viewing platform, you can see 40 miles in all directions. The only thing is though, to go to the viewing platform will cost you £50 per person. There is a better option. It's just up there to the left. The building looks like a walkie-talkie, 20 Fenchurch Street, home to the Sky Garden. The Sky Garden is free to visit. You have to book your place on their website, skygarden.london. But you pretty much get the same views as you would from the Shard, so save your £50, visit the Sky Garden. Now we got the warship just on the right there, the HMS Belfast. Now today the Belfast, that is an extension to the Imperial War Museum. Now you can go on there if you want, just as the people are today. There are 9 decks to go through, from the engine room to the wheelhouse. There's a lot of history on that warship. Now just in front of the boats, we have the iconic Tower Bridge. Now we'll take you just a little bit further down the river to the bridge. We're going to turn the boat to the left. You're going to get a very nice photo on the right very shortly. Now as we head down to the bridge, I will just tell the bridge ahead of us, it was finished in 1894. And as I'm sure you're all aware, the bridge ahead of us, well, it can open up. It opens like a double-sided drawbridge, and it takes 90 seconds to fully open. The bridge is open 364 days of the year. There is only one day, Tower Bridge, it will not open up. And that day, ladies and gentlemen, is the day because there are 40,000 runners. They run across that bridge. And apparently, if we start to open it, well, it would spoil the race. I've always said, look, just open it a little bit, give the runners a little hurdle, make the race a bit more exciting. So that's the only time it will not open. Now, Tower Bridge, which you can see on the right now, is built in a Gothic style. The reason it has the decoration to it is so that it blends in with its close neighbour, the Tower of London. Now, I know some of you are going to the Tower of London today, and I am pleased that you are going here. It's absolutely steeped in history. It was built in 1078 by William the Conqueror, and the oldest part of the tower is the middle with the 4 turrets, known as the White Tower. Now, the other parts of it, they were added to it from the monarchs that have led the country. Very famous, the Tower of London, for the Yeoman Wardens. They have protected that castle for the last 400 years. Now, the reason they protect it day to day, there's some very expensive jewellery within the castle. They are known as the crown jewels. They're king's jewellery, kept within the castle. So folks, if I could have all your kind attention now, it is a little bit chaos on the top there. I could have your attention for a few moments. It's a very old tradition on the Thames. Now, we have a computer on the boat. It does a commentary for us, but we refuse to use it. We tend to get better feedback when we do the commentaries ourselves. So if you did enjoy the commentary, you feel as though it's added to the tour, an old tradition on the river is the captain's silver champagne tip bucket. It looks like this. We take the American dollars and the euros, and ladies and gents, if you're wondering what happens to all the funds that go in the tip bucket, they do not get wasted. It's in London. Whatever you're doing, have a safe onward journey, and thank you all for your kind attention. Have a lovely day. Goodbye to you. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome on board the Millennium of Peace for your trip downstream. Now we are heading towards Greenwich. I really hope you wanted to go to Greenwich. She's stuck with us today. And as we pass through Tower Bridge, if you look up to the top of the bridge there, can you see the walkways at the top? Then halfway along those walkways, we've got glass platforms so you can see all the way down. And it's part of the Tower Bridge exhibition, so you go into one of the towers, and then you go up the bridge. Already how it works now and works today. And when you get to the top, you can go across those platforms, see all the way down to the road. One of the best times to be up there is when the boat was celebrated up there and the boat went literally beneath your feet, and a boat would pass underneath the legs. I never got around to doing it myself. And at the time, it's on my to-do list. And it's quite easy to do really if you ladies or boys. And that is to where there is a man, he stands at the bottom of the bridge all day long looking up with a pair of binoculars. You go there today, you'll be flying a man, he isn't there today. I know that for a fact because he's right here driving this one. And on the way so far, my friend is driving the boat, and I like to do on the river is we point out a few things as crew members. We're not guides or commentators by any means, we're just the crew. But we like to pass on a bit of information along the way. So I'm happy to carry on, if that's alright with you. It's my time to do it now, just make it like a bit of a commentary on the way down. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, just bear in mind, there isn't quite as much to see between here and Greenwich. Most of the sites of interest are behind us now. In fact, if you are on the upper deck, there is a lovely view of London behind the boats. And you can see London Tower Bridge and its ever-changing skyline. It makes for a lovely future. So we left the city of London. You can see St Paul's in the middle of the bridge, the BBC Tower and London's tallest building. A lovely picture behind us. Right now we're passing through Docklands. World War, this is said to have been one of the busiest ports anywhere in the world. So warehouses on wheels, they line the riverbanks and the road all the way out to the sea. So these warehouses, they used to be used to store cargo. All of the cargo that was brought up the river from ships around the world. Today these buildings are luxury Thames side apartments. A nice example of this, look on the left hand side, you can see Oliver's Wharf over there, and look at the top where they've added these deluxe windows and dormers and rooftop terraces. And a few famous people have actually lived in that building over the years. Robert De Niro had an apartment there, David Bowie, Helen Mirren, and most notably the singer and actress Cher, she lived in the penthouse, you know. The apartment with the American flag flying, that's where Cher used to live. She lived there until she got fed up with all the people on the boats pointing out that's where she lives. Apparently she had a bit of unwanted attention turning up at her door, so she had to move. And she moved a little bit further down river from here. I know where it is, I'll point out when we go past it, right? You're missing our phones. And it sits in Wapping, so this area on your left hand side, this is all Wapping. Wapping is the birthplace of this country's first police department, the Marine Police at Wapping. And they still have a station on the left. Can you see the little blue pig? Have a few police boats outside. One of the police boats just came flying past us actually. So today they just deal with emergencies on the river. If anyone falls in or jumps off the bridges or comes up a boat or whatever, they'll go and collect them. But years ago, they were employed on the river to tackle piracy, back when it was rife out. Not the type of piracy you get in the movies with the parrots and the piglets and the eye patches. They were just normal people. See, the other side of the river years ago was some of the poorest areas in the country. And these people would do anything they could to get by. And one of the things they would do is look the ships whilst they waited to dock. And nearly 30% of ships' cargo was going missing in the height of the piracy. There's a lovely pub on the left named after a quite famous pirate, Captain Kidd. Captain Kidd was drowned on the shores here in Watling back in 1701. He had suffered a great silver. So he was taken to a pub to get his last drink. After that, he was taken down to the river at low tide, a bit like now, and he was tied to a stake in the sand so he couldn't move. And then the water would rise, the tide would come in and wash over his head, and then he was pronounced dead. So they drowned the pirates on the shores of the pub. A nice pub on the right as well, next to the scaffolding. You see the white building with the British and American flags. It's called the Mayflower. So it's named after a very famous ship. There's a replica of that ship as a weather vane on top of the pub. You see the Mayflower, it sailed across the Atlantic from Plymouth over to the east coast of America. And the pilgrims from the Mayflower were one of the first colonies to become friends with the Native Americans. And they wanted to find a first Thanksgiving. So that pub is named after the ship that brought some of the founding fathers over to America. See, the captain of the ship, his name was Christopher Jones, and he is buried in the church right next door to that pub. They say some of the pilgrims from that voyage were from the area of the right, that's proper height over on the right hand side. You've got more wharves and warehouses on the left-hand side there, Metropolitan Mall, New Great Mall. Not all of these buildings are old warehouses, they're all apartments, but they're not old warehouses. Some of them are new builds and they've designed them to keep in the old aesthetics. The easiest way to tell the difference between a new build and an old warehouse is a new build will have a footpath in front of it, the Thames National Park. And the old warehouses, they come right up to the river's edge. And that's how a ship or a barge would have unloaded its cargo, lay alongside the building and have its cargo removed with those cranes. There's a white three-storey building on the left-hand side, next to that big willow tree there. That's the Prospect of Whitby, and that is the oldest pub on the tidal section of the river. It was first opened around 1520, so it has stood there for over 500 years. It's a nice pub to visit. There's a lot of history in that pub. It's so old, obviously. They do nice food in there, but years ago, that pub had a very, very bad reputation. It was known in this part of London as the Devil's Tavern, due to the type of people that used to drink in there years ago. That's where you get all your criminals, crooks, thieves, pirates, politicians. I mean, really unsavoury character used to drink in that pub years ago. And there's something way off into the distance. If you look on the left, just above the trees there, can you see a big grey building with a blue roof? Sorry to point something out so far away, but that is the Royal London Hospital at Whitechapel. That's home to the London Air Ambulance. Whitechapel is quite well known for the Jack the Ripper murders. They all took place in the East End of London. Places like Whitechapel, Bethnal Green, Mile End, Bow, Stepney Green. These are all East End London. And if you're born in those areas, that makes you a Cockney. Just because you're born in London, that doesn't make you a Cockney. To be a proper Cockney, you have to be born in the East End. Within hearing distance, the sound of Bow bells, the bells of the church at St Mary. And probably the most expensive property on the river is over to the left-hand side there. You can see the lovely trees on the left, and that is a privately owned garden, and it belongs to the property to the left of the trees. You see with the
brown balconies there, that big brown conservatory, that is one solely owned property. And it was first converted from a warehouse by David Lean, the film director, the Lawrence of Arabia, Passage to India, in those films. It doesn't belong to David Lean anymore. It now belongs to Cher. I think I can see her cleaning her windows actually. Turn the right time. An entranceway on the left that a break in the river wall. Lighthouse Marina. If you had a smaller boat in this, you could go into the marina, and then the other side of the marina, they've got the entrance onto the Regent's Canal, which runs through London, Camden, then into that before Camden, and then it goes to a place called Brentford. Brentford is the entrance onto the Grand Union Canal. So from there, you can make your way up north. You can go to places like Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham. If you're familiar with the programme Peaky Blinders, where you know Tommy Shelby and his crew, they quite often come down to London to do business with Tom Hardy's character, Alfie Solomon, and they do that via the canals. You see, years ago, that's how we would have transported cargo, mainly coal, and we put coal or cargo onto barges, and horses would pull the barges on the tow poles, and that was the quickest way to it. It would take about 2 weeks to get to Birmingham, and nowadays you probably get about an hour by train. That used to be the quickest way of the town. Another pub on the left, you see the building with the 3 balconies? You people up the back there. At the top, you might notice the green lettering and the grapes. Charles Dickens lived in that pub for a few years. It's where he wrote the books Great Expectations and Our Mutual Friend. That pub belongs to a quite famous actor today. One of the part owners of that pub is Ian McKellen. You know Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, Magneto from X-Men. He said he lives quite near to that pub and it's his local. And he found out it was going up for sale. They didn't want it to be converted into apartments or housing, so him and a few friends put their money together to keep it as a pub. And I am told, I've never been to find out myself for sure, but I am told it's quite well known that he does the pub quiz on the Wednesday nights. So give it a little go. Yeah, pub quiz from a celebrity. And on the left-hand side, we've got the Canary Wharf development, ladies and gentlemen. I'm told that Canary Wharf is the financial epicentre of here. You can see a lot of the large banks have moved out here yourselves, and you can see the HSBC and Citigroup building. And they have been conveniently placed there behind Canada Square. See the one with the pyramid and the flashing light? Those 3 buildings are supposed to look like something. But you'll have to use your imagination for this one. It's supposed to look like a UK 3-pin club in the sky. And they say that is supposed to represent, get this, it's supposed to represent the power that is surging through the air. I could make this stuff up if I try it, but it's meant to just write itself sometimes. So this is the Canary Wharf development. And it's quite a nice place to visit on the weekends. In the week, I tend to avoid it. Most people do. It's full of bankers. Hundreds of thousands of bankers come to work here every day during the week at Canary Wharf. On the weekend, they go home to see and they leave it empty. And it's a nice place to have a little look around. They've got nice bars and restaurants, shopping centres there. Museum as well. During the week, far too many bankers. And on the other side of these buildings, on the left, is the O2 Arena, or the other side of the river. See, at the moment we're going round a very large horseshoe bend or curve in the River Thames, if you will. You'll probably know the part of river that I'm talking about. You've probably seen it many times before. It If you've ever watched that program, EastEnders, has anyone seen EastEnders? Sorry if you have, it's an awful show. And that is the River Thames at the beginning of the program. And in the middle of the map, there's a big horseshoe bend. And then one side of it is the O2, we're the opposite side of that right now. Our destination, it is at the bottom of the horseshoe, that's Greenwich, ladies and gents. So we're not far away now. And if you look at that map, you'll see it bends and twists and turns from left to right around a series of what we call messes and points on the river. So they break it into stretches or reaches, if you will. So every time we go around the bend or a curve, we enter into a new reach. The reach that we're in at the moment is Limehouse Reach. As we went into Limehouse Reach, we went into a stretch of river that's not a great deal of interest, if I'm honest with you. If you look on the left very carefully, look over on the left there. Now look over on the right, look very carefully on the right. You'll see absolutely nothing. That's about it for here, ladies and gents. All you'll see in this area are apartments and unaffordable housing and accommodation. And they've got no historical interest about them. Most of them are new builds. The only thing I can tell you about them is they're all very nice. They're all very expensive. And nobody can afford them. It's quite expensive to live in London, let alone by the River Thames. You probably find a lot of people that were born in London, raised here, grew up in the areas, they move a little bit further out. Places like Essex and Kent, companies move out to Essex, sometimes even as far as Hertfordshire and Surrey, and a lot of the people then just commute to London. It's a lot cheaper to live on the outskirts. To live in London these days, it's out of the question for a lot of people, especially if you want to live facing the river. Most of the apartments that we're looking at are owned by multi-millionaires, millionaires, foreign investors. And it's quite funny really, because years ago you probably couldn't pay these people to live by this river, because it was just all industry. There was ships and boats and barges moving up and down the river all hours of the day and night. So there was quite a lot of pollution, quite a lot of noise. And years ago, the river used to smell quite bad as well. See, in the early 1800s, a man invented the toilet as we know it today. The full cop design. He's got a very funny name, the man who invented the toilet. Does anyone know his name? That man knows. Thomas Crapper. That's right, Thomas Crapper invented the toilet. And it was a very clever invention at the time, but there was nowhere for this sewage to go. So for many, many years, it was dumped into the river. Eventually, it became biologically dead as well. And then one year they had a particularly hot summer in London. They called that the year of the Great Stink. I don't know if you've heard of that. And that's when they decided to clean up the Thames. So they tasked a man with cleaning up the river, Joseph Bazalgette. And he came up with a sewer system for London that really helped clean it up to the point it is at today. So I know it looks very dirty still, the river, doesn't it? That's because the bedrooms, they don't allow the mud to settle at the bottom. If you scooped up a glass of water from the river though, put it on the side for an hour or so, you'd see yourselves, all of the sediment would settle to the bottom of the glass, you'd have a layer of dirt at the bottom, and the top part would be pretty much crystal clear. And you could then drink that water. It would probably kill you, but you could drink it. Years ago you couldn't drink it, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You would have had to chew it years ago. It's doing a lot better these days, let me tell you. At last count, there was something like 125 different species of aquatic life in the Thames. And the upper reaches you get things like carp and bream and perch and trout. And the lower reaches here, you get a lot of eels. And eels used to be a little bit of a London delicacy actually. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of jellied eels before. Basically, you cut up the eels into chunks. You boil it in hot water, you add a few herbs like parsley, and then you take it off the boil and put it in the fridge Greenwich and it congeals in its own jelly, basically, and then you eat the jelly and then it gels together. Now, I know it doesn't sound that appetizing, folks. I know it doesn't, but you should definitely try it. You see, they say that eels, they keep you looking young. I've been eating eels for the last 65 years now, and people say I look pretty good for my age. Definitely try the jelly eels. You get harbour seals in the River Thames as well, and if anyone saw a seal pop its head up at any point. On a few different occasions we've had different sightings of different whales as well. We once had a whale travel all the way out to Putney. Probably most recently we had a beluga whale down in Gravesend. So all of the wildlife in the river gives us a clear indication of how much cleaner it is now. See those fast currents that don't allow the mud to settle. You see, we have 2 tides a day on the River Thames. 4 in a 24-hour period. What we know is a flood tide will bring the water in from the sea. The water level rises for 5 hours, and then an ebb tide will draw it back out again for 7. So we have a rise and fall in tide anywhere between 6 and 7 meters on average. So they currently go as fast as 6 to 7 knots at some points on the river, and possible to swim against. And we have Greenwich ahead of the boat now, ladies and gentlemen. We're not far away now. You can see Greenwich. There's lots to do and see there, and I don't know what you want to do when we get here. There's a lot more returning boats from here today. The boats will leave every 40 minutes exactly until 6:30. We're 10 past out of Greenwich, and then as I said, their boats will leave every 40 minutes until 6:30 today, or this evening, if you will. So what I'll do is I'll point out some of the things that Greenwich has to offer, and you can kind of decide from there. You've got the buildings directly ahead of us. You see the building with the 2 domes on top of it? They look like miniature versions of St. Paul's Cathedral. That's the old Royal Naval Colleges. So that's where the Navy used to be nursed and trained. And it's also where Lord Nelson's body was first brought back to when he died in the Battle of Trafalgar. They kept his body there, he lay in state, and he was buried in St. Paul's Cathedral after a state funeral. And the way they brought his body back from the sea is they preserved it, they kind of pickled it in a barrel of rum. They had a lot of rum on board the sailors, so they put his body in a barrel of rum. When they cracked it open after they got him back, they reckon some of the rum was missing. And they have good reason to believe that some of the crew were dipping into the barrel on the way back. I guess they just wanted a stiff drink. Probably would have had a bit of a full-bodied taste to it. You know, sorry, it's too close to lunchtime, but I just want to quickly say sorry about that. You've got the tall 3-masted ship that's sat up on the shore. That's a Cutty Sar. That was the fastest sailing ship in the world back when it was built. It was built for the tea trade. It was a tea clipper. And it would race around the world from Asia back to Tower Bridge and Butler's Wharf, and it would deliver mainly tea leaves and a few other spices. Today there's a museum up on the shore in a big glass stand case. So you can have a good look around the Pinoyengland. Every now and then they do excursions. You pay to climb up the rigging as well. So if you've got a head behind us, you might want to visit the Cutty Sar. Probably the furthest away point of interest in Greenwich is about a 20-minute walk up to the top of Greenwich Park. If you look at the buildings ahead to the right, just look above those buildings. Can you see the castle at the top of the hill with the red ball? Flamstead House, and next to that, the big green dome up there is the Royal Greenwich Observatory. And the Greenwich Observatory is where the meridian line sits, 0 degrees longitude on the world map, where east meets west. So this is quite literally the centre of the universe, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have made it. I thought you'd be a little bit more excited by that fact, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be honest with you. The centre of the universe. If none of that does interest you, Greenwich is a great place to get some food. At the top of that pier, you've got a few chain restaurants. There's about 10 pubs within 5-minute walking distance as well, so you can have a couple of drinks and some pub lunch. If you head a bit further inland, there's a pie and mash shop. That's a very traditional London dish, pie and mash. It's called Goddard's, and in there, you can try those jelly eels I was telling you about. There's a fish and chip shop, called Jack the Chipper. There's fast food restaurants, you name it, they probably have it here in Greenwich. But whilst you decide what you want to do, we'll take you into the stock focus. Try and stay in your seats until we're there. I know most of you are anyway, but just stay seated until we're fully secure alongside. If you are getting off here, even if you're going to stretch your legs and come back with us, take all of your belongings, alright, just in case. Just last of all, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that you've enjoyed a few words myself and my friend have shared along the way as well. I said at the start, it's probably quite obvious now, we're not professional tour guides on board these boats. We are just crew, you see, but hopefully we're a little bit better than the robot the company provides. You see, we don't receive any sort of training for this, folks. We are paid for it, they are voluntary. We have a little custom on the river though, and what we get to do is we leave a little silver champagne tip bucket by the exit gate. There it is. You see it on the gate as you leave, and if you've enjoyed or understood a few words, you're more than welcome to throw a couple of bob, a bit of change, any banknotes, whatever you like, into our old bucket as you leave us. Anything you do give is greatly appreciated, and all really helps out that very intense research that we will conduct this evening, 9 PM, at one of those lovely pubs we just went past. It's all for the research, you see. Well, whatever the outcome, I hope you've enjoyed, and have a lovely day out here in Greenwich. Thank you.
Mommy, are we leaving? Mommy? Oxford. Oxford.